about it.
Dr. Pryor, what was your personal experience and what's your advice to people who may be considering voting for the first time this November?
Well, I think that they should overcome the anxiety. There's a natural anxiety to voting.
Were you nervous?
Yes, I was. I mean, the first time I went to vote, it's not as if someone said, let me take you inside the poll, let me show you what you have to do. So when I got there, I was a little bit confused. I mean, after all, I didn't know that you had to pull a lever. I didn't know that you had to push the little switch. I didn't know that I don't have to vote for everybody on the ticket. I could take one from this ticket, one from that. I mean, you know, there are a lot of intricacies that you need to be told, and I don't know if there's a widespread process that actually, you know, assists individuals in actually voting and the technicalities of voting. So I think we have to provide a lot of information, but I think we should have some concrete examples. We need to set up artificial voting polls. We actually should have whole workshops and trainings where we actually take folks, let me take you to the poll for the first time. Let me show you what you have to do. Let me show you what the steps are involved. So when they get to that day, they're not overcome by anxiety and the fear of not knowing, which is natural for anyone.
Very quickly, Francis, what does it say about our democracy? And will we ever be able to shift this? That rather than encouraging and embracing everybody that wants to vote and making it possible for them to do it maybe wherever they're living, for whenever they want to, you know, in perpetuity, are we ever going to get, we do the opposite of all these restrictions, all these fences and gates?
We have all been emphasizing the pushback against new voters. But the pushback is occurring because there are lots of new voters. After the Civil Rights Movement, the Voting Rights Act, the great migration of African Americans from the South to the North, the African American voting bloc became very important to both parties. The Republicans decided they didn't want that voting bloc, and they also decided that by attacking African Americans, by denigrating them, that they could win white votes in the South. And finally, they decide, even while they were doing that, they also became very interested and very expert at the vote suppression strategies that Wendy, for example, has talked about and that Dr. Pryor has talked about. But nevertheless, African Americans really believe in the right to vote. And the incredible thing about the history of the last 50 years is the resilience of this population that in Florida before 2000, now again, Barack Obama is the culmination of a grand movement around voting rights among African Americans, now Latinos, young people. So yes, they're going to try to stop them from voting.
Will they get away with it? Whoever this they is, those who might not want to see this swell, what are they going to be up against, and what can we do?
Yeah, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the huge increase in voter interest and voter participation this year. So while there's been an increased effort to push back against new voters, the new voters are still flooding through in our primaries this year. It was more than double the participation rates from the last two primary election years. I mean, these are really record participation rates. It is a banner year for democracy, and there's a lot of information out there to enable people to avoid these suppression tactics. Student voters should be able to get accurate information. On our website, we have a voter guide that should assist students. Same with people with past felony convictions that are living in their communities and are entitled by state law to register and vote. They're getting misinformation from election officials. We've studied this across the country. But there's correct information out there that you can get either from our website, or if you call the Election Protection Hotline, 866-OUR-VOTE. You should be able to get correct information about your voting rights. So there's really a lot of assistance out there for voters, and I hope that this won't be successful.
And to the campaigns, get it locally and nationally that on these skirmishes around voting rights may rest the outcome of the election?
Well, it certainly appears so. Both campaigns have so many lawyers, and they have these very large voter protection operations, much bigger than in prior election years. So it's the fact that you can game the system or try to fix the rules of the game to benefit your side has not been lost on the political parties, and we hope that they're fighting actually to keep voters on the rolls and that they don't do things like widespread challenges that intimidate and suppress voters. but that they actually just try to protect the votes of their voters.
Well, I want to thank everybody for participating in a lively conversation. I think we know the challenges we're up against, but Fran, you've reminded me how far we've come, and we're on the right track, I'm sure. I want to thank Frances Fox Piven. She teaches at CUNY. Her books are at our website. You can go to GRITTV.org. The one we've been referencing today is Why Americans Still Don't Vote. Dr. Divine Pryor is with us from the Center for New Leadership and Urban Solutions. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for your work. Docia Buffington is with the Youth Voter Collective. Thank you, Docia.
Thank you.
And, of course, Wendy Weiser, thank you so much, from the Brennan Center, the Brennan Center's top person on election rights and voting rights. We'll be back with a whole lot more right after this video from videothevote.org. Thanks to Ian Inaba of the Guerrilla News Network for this.